Welcome to Above Par. I'm your host, Kathy Hartwood. I show you how to take more of your talent to the golf course without practicing harder, taking more lessons, or buying new equipment. I show you how to end the frustration of underperforming so you can start playing to your potential. This is where you are going to learn how to think above par so you can play below par. Let's get to it. Hello, my golf friend. How are you today? Hope you're out there playing lots of golf, getting people to ask you questions about your score. Would you shoot? What number did you have there? Because that's what I want to talk about today is when people ask you questions about your score or what you shot at a certain number, even if they're not even keeping your score or have your scorecard, or after a round, you're in the clubhouse and people start asking you questions, what you feel and think inside your head, maybe even what you say, reveals a lot about what you think about yourself and your score at that moment. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. This is the thing that is important to remember. Anytime a number shows up for you in your life, it is neutral. It is neither good nor bad. It's a number. It's a fact. It's data. So it's neither good nor bad until you have a thought about it, until you create a story in your head. That story that you create in your head creates your feelings. Otherwise, the number is neutral. This could be for different numbers that show up in your life, like your weight, how much money you make, your age, how tall you are, your handicap, what you shot on a hole, how far you hit a club, your score. Right? These are just numbers. They're just information. And then we have stories in our head. An example of this and how it shows up in our everyday life is, let's say you go to the doctor and you go and you fill out all this paperwork and you put down all your information, your height and your age and your weight. And then you go into the room and you have a nurse practitioner who reviews all that stuff. And then she asks you those questions again. Okay, this is my experience, at least. Like when they start asking me, like, what's your weight? I always have a little bit of pushback in my head because it's on the piece of paper. I wrote it down. Why do you have to ask me out loud? Why do I have to say it out loud and reveal it to you? I feel like everywhere we go, we have to reveal our weight. I can go get an eye exam for my contacts. So how much do you weigh? Like, really? You need to know that? Is this critical information for what kind of prescription I'm going to get for my glasses? Right? That pushback that I have about them asking the question, the story that I have in my head shows me that I do not think that my weight is a neutral number, that number. Right? Now, my husband for sure is an example of this. He will tell anybody and everybody what he weighs. He has zero problem with it. Even his age, he used to always round up. I'm like, you're not supposed to round up. I'm like, you just had a birthday. Why are you rounding up to next year? You're not going to be that number for another 8 months. Why are you rounding up? Nobody does that, just for the record. But he does. He rounds up. So he doesn't have any problem with those two numbers. There are numbers he has problems with, but a lot of people do. And that's just an example of the story we create in our head about numbers. Your score in this instance. You can even take it for how far you hit a club. I find a lot of people get some pushback on that. So if someone asks you what you shot and you have this dialogue in your head, it sounds like, why are they asking? Why do they care? What are they going to think? It's none of their business. This is what this reveals to you. The first thing is that you have judgment about that number. You're judging it yourself. It's likely not good enough for you. You're not happy with it. Maybe you're ashamed of it. You are judging yourself and that number on what you're making it mean. How do we know this is true? Because if you typically shoot 75 and you went and shot 85, right, you might have a lot of judgment about that in your head. And you might be hesitant to share it with people or have some pushback or resistance when someone asks you, or feel crappier when someone asks you about your score and you have to say it out loud. Kind of like going into the doctor's office and feeling like you have to go and spew out your weight every step you take. Now, the opposite of this is if you typically shoot 75 and you shot 72 and someone asked you your score, you would blurt out quickly with no drama in your head your score. You might even give a little story on how it could have been lower. You didn't get a bounce here. You didn't lip out on this other hole. You could have gone even lower, right? There's no judgment in it. You're happy with it. You feel good about it. And I'm not saying that we don't have to feel happy about our higher scores. It's that we're judging it. We're saying it's not good enough. It could have been better from a negative stance, not from a factual stance. Okay, so the first thing is that we judge ourselves. The second thing that we think is that the other person who's asking is going to use that information and judge us. Why are they asking? They're going to judge me. The minute I say it out loud, I'm going to project into their head what they're going to think and say. And what I'm going to project into their head and what I think they're going to say is what I already think about myself, which was number one. The things that you're judging yourself about is what you think the other person is also going to think. So at that instance, we realize how much we're worried about what people think about us, as if a number is going to change that. If someone just coming out and asking us the question is the only person judging us. I heard this thing on the news about the sharks. There's a lot of shark bites up in the Northeast, I think Long Island right now. And I saw this guy being interviewed and he said, people don't realize when they're out there swimming, there's hundreds of sharks around them. They just notice the one that bites. Right? They said, just go about your business, have a nice time. There's sharks amongst us. Right? This is the way we go through life. There are people judging us all the time, unbeknownst to us. That's what people do. That's what you do. You judge yourself. So of course you're going to judge other people. But it's the person that comes out and actually asks the question is the one that bites. That's the one that we notice, that stings the most. Now, they haven't judged. They've just asked the question. And then our brain goes to, they're judging me. Of course they would be judging me because I'm judging me. And I'll tell you exactly what I think they're saying because it's going to be exactly what I'm saying to myself. So the third thing that happens is then we get annoyed that they asked us the question. Why are they asking? It's so annoying. Are they going to use that against me? Are they going to gloat that they beat me? We're not annoyed that they asked the question. Right? Again, we don't know that people aren't gloating anyway if they beat you. We're annoyed that they asked the question and now we're uncomfortable to have to share something that we're judging ourselves, that we have to say it out loud. So if I'm in the office and with the nurse practitioner or the doctor and they're looking at all my information that I wrote down and they look at my weight, I don't know that they're not judging my weight, that number. They see it, right? It's there. It's kind of like looking at the scoreboard. I see the scores. I know what you shot. But if she came out and said, tell me again how much you weigh. Tell me what you shot. We're annoyed they asked the question because we're uncomfortable that we have to say it out loud and have all this dialogue and management that we have to do in our head. Someone asking a question is never annoying. It's the thought management, the mental management that we're annoyed with. It's the story we create that becomes annoying. Right? Because this is the thing, we can't change the number. It is what it is. It's done. It's a snapshot of today. What happened today. Facts are facts. And if that person is going to judge you, just like judgment doesn't feel good to you, it doesn't feel good for you to judge yourself. It doesn't feel good to judge other people. So they are sitting in an unpleasant state of judgment. Let them have it. Knock yourself out. And then the fourth thing is that we identify in some way with that number, especially if we have no problem blurting out the score when we shoot something really great versus when we don't play so well. We identify ourselves with that number in some way. Our enoughness is attached to that number. How we view ourselves, how we get to talk about ourselves is based on a number. So what does this all mean? Basically, when you go out and play golf, is that you are putting pressure on your golf game and your swing to produce a score and a number so that you get to have a good story about yourself. So that other people can have a good story about you, which is totally not in your control. You're putting pressure on your golf game because if you don't play so well, then you will judge yourself. If you don't play so well, then you will think other people judge you. You will worry about what other people think. And you'll feel crappy about yourself because a bad score is a bad person and a good score is a good person. And that's so much pressure on how you get to feel and treat yourself day in and day out, relative to a game where we take a swing and try and get a ball into a little hole. Right? Which goes back to the thing that I've said on multiple podcasts. You are not your number. You are not your score. You're not your golf game. And let people judge you. Let people be wrong about you. The less you judge, the less you worry about other people judging. Okay, so if someone asks you what your score is, or your weight, or your age, it's just a number, own it. Get curious on how much you attach your identity to it. How many thoughts and stories you have around it. What are they? Because they create your feelings. They create how you get to feel at that given moment in time. What do you want to say to yourself no matter what the number is? If someone asks you because they had a good round and they want to see if they beat you and they want to gloat, let them gloat because they're basing how they get to feel on comparing themselves to you. That doesn't feel very good either. We don't want other people to do poorly, so we get to feel better. All right, my friends, so the next time you start attaching a little bit of judgment to any number that you have going on in your life, if you start hearing yourself ask, why are they asking me this question? What business is it of theirs? It's because you're attaching a little judgment to that number. You're projecting into their heads what you're likely thinking about yourself, or you're attaching your identity and how you get to treat yourself to that number. And your game will benefit so much the better you get at making numbers neutral everywhere in your life. All right, my friends, if you want any help with this, you want to learn more about the programs that I have, join the academy, or work with me one-on-one, make sure you head to kathyhartwood.com. Have a beautiful week. I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye.